close to finishing the Amrit Leia 3. I'm reading it very slowly, bit by bit, and I'm like page 149. I tried to find it on like online, and I couldn't find another copy of this. I guess must be only like one source for getting this thing or something. But
yeah, I think it's coming from India, actually. The Zen Publications or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I tried to find it in America too, to see even, and you couldn't.
Yeah.
On Amazon, I didn't find it.
Uh-huh.
And if you Google it, you'll get Amrit Leia, the other one, like
Right.
the 1 and 2, but not the 3.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I emailed the lady in France twice about that book, and I never heard back from her. And then this week I emailed another person in Mumbai to see if I hear back from him. He said he would look into it. But so you can actually get it on Zen, the Zen Press from India. So I can take a look there as well. So
might have to pay extra for shipping.
Well,
yeah.
we have it passing around, right? Everybody who's gotten, I think Kathleen.
I still have it. I was going to send it to Trish.
You're supposed to send it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
but Trish told me not to.
What do you mean I told you not to?
You said not to send it right away.
I said you didn't have to hurry. It was okay for you to, read it at your...
Okay.
I'd like to read it sometime, but you said that you were taking your time and reading it, and I said, that's fine. I don't want you to race through it.
Oh,
but I would like to see it sometime.
Okay. All right. I'll send it then. I'm pretty much finished.
Well, finished. Don't send it before you're finished.
Yeah. Are you going to that thing on Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, well then maybe I'll just bring it there.
Okay.
Save postage.
But I was on page like 149. He's had some impact on me just because it was like a different word used for. I guess it's like a synonym of concepts. He said, "Don't categorize things," something to that effect. And I just saw that categorization, I guess, is about the same thing as conceptualization. And then I was also thinking that's sort of like giving word or being to nouns. It's more like making nouns out of things rather than verbs.
Well, the whole thing is it's a mentation. Anything having to do with mind, categorization, labeling, conceptualizing, all these have to do with mind.
Yeah.
And prior to beingness, prior to thought, there wasn't, prior to the arising of the first word, you are.
Uh-huh. Prior to the arising of first form, too, I guess, right?
Well, all things, yeah. The formlessness in which there was a stirring and then everything came about. But you're before words, all words. And that's why Ramakant Maharaj says many times, don't listen to the words, don't get caught up in the words, because words came along with the body. Prior to the body, you didn't know anything about words. So the formlessness using words had to click with the body in the body form in the world, which is all illusory. And then there's conversation using words, but words are not ultimate truth.
Yeah, they sort of like make a matrix of their own reality or something.
Yeah, because in Nisargadatta Maharaj says, be very careful with your words because one word can birth an entire world and continue and continue. Every concept births more concepts.
And then each thing seems to have its own being, and you forget your own being.
Because you live in that world that you're creating and validate it by your stamp, like Gominji Ganesh. You're stamping, yes, this is the reality, this is the concept I'm believing, and then this concept comes with another concept. The first concept is that you exist, and that existence, then the concept comes along that you exist as a body in a world with words, with other bodies that are people that you believe yourself separate from. So,
and then I feel like I exist according to what words are saying.
well, because you're creating your world through the words that you're using. Basically, all of everything is being created by your concepts. You're conceptualizing, but again, the first concept is that you exist as something separate and apart from anything, rather than just a sense of existence, knowing existence, which even this is illusory, because prior to knowing this existence, there had to be something in which this existence appeared to, and that would be your own selfless self. So this one concept of I exist birthed the world. I exist as something. I exist as this body. And then words start flowing. And then mind starts flowing along with words, because words put together in a thought stream about the world that you are seeing and perceiving. And you basically create this whole conceptualization that's not the case, and then get lost in it. They talk about the spider that spins the web, and then, you're creating all of this, like Sri Ramakat Maharaj says, this bubble of illusion, and you're living in it. And then you're limiting yourself completely to this new, like, sense of reality. You're saying, okay, this is the reality. Instead of my formless nature, in which I know that, if through meditation I can go back to my formless self and I can be in this sense of presence. But now that I'm conceptualizing using the body form, I see around me, and it's object to object and what's going on and all this stuff. And this is not the case, but you get lost in this.
And so I don't know if it makes any difference to say whether that whether I do the first concept of me, or whether the use conceptualization could be said that it does it to me, because it's nature of concept to divide. But I guess at some point I don't know if you would say I choose to make a concept of myself.
But there's no choice. It's spontaneous, and then there's a feeling that this is the reality. That's why Sri Ramakat Maharaj says, remain prior to beingness. Prior to beingness is you just there, just I, as this formless sense of presence in which everything has appeared. And then when you do get lost in the illusion, you return to the background of every experience, which is the sense of presence on which all the experience is appearing. And that's, you just bring it back. Every time you think that you're Keith and that something's really important, Sri Ramakat Maharaj has said, in the background of everything, you are. So go to that you are. Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about the sense of existence as you are, I am. So recede until you're basically sensing without using senses. You have this subtle feeling, just I, this sense of presence, this existence, this I am, this you are, whatever you want to call it. And that's where you remain. You remain as the witness of this, but there's not really witnessing because it's just there. And then it's like seeing out the window we talked about before. This glass is the sense of presence, and everything on the other side of that glass is projected on spontaneous presence. But you, the witness of presence, are on the other side of the window. Just you go to the aquarium and you see all the fish and the water and everything that's there, and you're outside. You're just standing there. There's no water where you are, but you're viewing through the glass and there's an entire water world on the other side of that glass. And if you consider that that glass is the presence and you're just witnessing presence, and this water world is appearing on your spontaneous presence, and you're totally separate and apart from it. You don't try to start swimming at the aquarium.
That's been my experience this week. Instead of the aquarium, it was like just realizing that, and it came, you know, like the word covering came to me, and I know where it came from. It came from the Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham Shivoham, that song at the end of Kakarati. And in one of the footnotes, it talks about the 5 coverings. You know, it goes through all the coverings, you know, the intellectual, the gross body, subtle body, mind, intellect, ego, even the ananda, which is the bliss covering, you know, just the joy or the bliss covering. And it felt like, you know, like just the challenges that's been happening here, you know, kind of really pushed me a bit. And just begin to see that, you know, this entire thing, you know, this whole reality, or, you know, not reality, but maybe this whole, you can call it the illusion, you might, but it's like an immense cover over me. And at the same time, I'm part of it. And at the same time, you know, like I'm above it, and I'm looking at it, like you just said with the aquarium, you know, like I'm above the covering, but I see down below everything else, like including myself, with my own personality, my, you know, just the things that I do that you might say are right or wrong or whatever, and seeing it, you know, seeing the same thing in everyone else, just kind of like just seeing it there. And it's just like a perspective that really is very liberating, actually. It gets you out, it got me out of the, you know, like the involvement, you might say.
Right.
Although I am involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am involved, and I can react and do this and do that and so forth and so forth. But it's just like there's a certain kind of distance from it, watching it all happening.
Almost like it's not you, you mean?
Yeah, you know, like kind of like not, it's like they say, not taking the touch of it. I mean, there's tendencies to take the touch, but at the same time, just reminding myself of what's happening, you know, just being kind of like keeping one eye out for the truth or reality, you know, it kind of pulls you back away from it again.
Well, and when you know that in that state, you're saying is like the body is appearing in you, you're not appearing in the body.
Yeah, yeah.
The body and all its activities and everything that you're kind of observing, so to speak, is appearing inside you, within you, the formlessness that all of this is occurring. And you're sort of kind of seeing this from that point of view of, oh, look, even the dream. Sri Ramakat Maharaj uses the dream all the time. And it's exactly like that. Like your formlessness is dreaming this so-called reality that you're experiencing.
Right.
And we just did hello to Pavan. Welcome.
Hello.
Somebody new, I guess. So I say hello.
I don't recognize the name.
I think I got a little taste of that also this week. It was like seeing a perspective where I could see my body, or what I normally think of as me, for what it is, and then it seemed to be on an equal level of all things that I see as being what they are. It was like that there was no difference between how I see myself and my body and how I see everything else. It was kind of like, that's just the way of seeing things, is to see things the way I see. It just was like an equal. It was like no difference between the seeing one thing and seeing another thing, seeing me and seeing other things.
Yes, yes. And that's the mentation that mind flow has stopped with the identification. So you're literally the space using your body to peek inside the space.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like the space has grown eyes and seen, oh, look at all this stuff going on inside. And yet Keith is no more important or attention drawn to the body Keith than any of the other forms inside the space, because you're more identified with the space looking into or within yourself, and Keith is no longer a focal point of attention.
So all this is a matter of getting used to that new perspective, I guess.
Well, that's the reality. And every time the idea that there's a Keith that's, you know, then that's when mantra, or just, you know, remain with a sense of presence. But eventually, yeah, you will start to see that basically you are just two eyes. There's no more mind that's flowing through trying to pay attention to Keith. It's just space with eyes moving about inside itself, enjoying whatever happens to be forming inside itself as yourself, the selfless self. And thoughts will cease, because as you experienced your own self, who's there to think about? All of everything is equal. There's no particular focal point of, oh, this is Keith and Keith is doing this.
And that made me think that I was looking up renunciation, what it means, and renunciation in general means like separating yourself from what you think is like right or wrong and stuff like that. But because you want to find a way to get enlightened and not see right and wrong and stuff anymore. But
well, but what you just described, the renunciation is automatic, because when you're the space using the eyes of the body labeled Keith to see inside yourself and everything's equal, then there's nothing that you're going after. All is equal, all is yourself. It's a natural renunciation without having to actually have a renouncer created.
And then it occurred to me that actually when I do the mantra, I'm actually renouncing my mind, is what I'm doing. So,
yeah, I mean, you're renouncing everything that's false, all the false illusory layers that have appeared on your presence that kept you in that body impression of, I am Keith and this is Keith's world. Welcome, Pavan. Did you have a question?
Sounds like he's sleeping. He must have pressed it by mistake, and he's
Yeah, it's snoring.
either that or it's his cat.
I think I told this story once before on here. I used to do a talk show on the radio about this kind of stuff, and one time I was talking about this stuff, and the guy I was talking to, he fell asleep on the phone while I was talking about this stuff. And you could hear him snoring. That was.
Well, Maharaj has said, make everyone happy. So if happiness is you sleeping while they're okay. You're making everybody happy.
Depends.
All right. All I can do is press the mute button.
That's good.
We don't have to listen to snoring. If he wants to come on, he can unmute himself.
There you go.
You are the master key there.
Yeah, that's the good thing about being the host. I'm controlling the world.
What world?
Yeah, that's right.
Who?
It's an illusory
Who's controlling what world?
controlling an illusory world. It's a joke.
And also another thought that was coming to me this yesterday or today was well, it comes to me every now and then is actually what I normally think of as being actual. If I look close enough, I can see that it's actually only possible. That actual, what I think of as being actual is actually only possible. Because in the mind wants to think that what it is involved with is actual. It doesn't.
Don't give separate autonomy to the mind, or the mind as some kind of separate entity. The mind is just a flow of thoughts that you're identifying with as thoughts, but it's, I know that's a very kind of popular thing to do, and Ramakant Maharaj also cuts that very quickly. Don't, when we say the mind does this or the mind does that, there's the tendency to form this concept that the mind is somehow an entity or is somehow acting, and it's not acting separate. Your attention and your power is powering the mind. It's not a separate entity that's somehow doing this or learning this or in any way at all. There really is no mind. Mind is just a flow of thoughts, and there's an identification as these thoughts are my thoughts, and that because I'm believing myself to be a body, I'm believing that these are like internal thoughts to me. But this is not the case.
Yeah, because then you would that comes along with a doer. Right?
Exactly. Mind, if you're the space in the room and thoughts are flowing through that space, it's the same as birds flying through that space. It's just nothing. And that's why that, okay, this is just a nothing type thing. It's ether. Thoughts are nothing, really, unless you pay attention to them and think them into a thought and put them into action through ego. But it's not a very sound thing to say, oh, the mind is doing this, and then the mind thinks this, and then this is also the mind. Remember, the mind is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's an instrument that can be used, and as Sri Ramakant Maharaj has said, you can use it sparingly like pickle. When you put a pickle on a sandwich, you don't put like 50 pickles on a sandwich. You put 1, maybe 2 pickles on the sandwich. So you use the mind very sparingly, in that good thoughts are flowing, bad thoughts are flowing. Thoughts that are useful for you, you can take them and use in the moment. Thoughts that are not useful, you allow them to flow by without any attention. But there is no mind as an entity that's learning or doing or pressuring or doing none of these things.
That reminds me of cooking, that use things sparingly. In cooking, you might think you can get things exactly right, but really it's kind of like you watch a cooking show and they say just this much or something. It's like it's kind of the right amount, but it's never really an exact right amount.
Yeah, the only thing you have to get perfect is your perfect identification with your selfless self. Formless you are, without anything. And that perfection then impresses. Remember, Sri Ramakant Maharaj said that whatever the spirit kind of catches onto, it impresses, it reflects. So when the spirit is reflecting, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body, and that's a continuum of, oh, this sense of presence is here, and if I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body, then this presence is more myself than anything in the material form world that I could possibly identify with. And then eventually, again, that, because you're just remaining as a witness to presence, then it dawns on you that, okay, even as subtle as this sense of presence is, there's something that is myself that is experiencing this sense of presence. And that's because of, like we talked about before, if you put a flower under your nose and you close your eyes and you smelled the flower, you know the flower's there without any other kind of anything by the fragrance. And that's the same with the sense of presence. That sense of presence is the fragrance of your selfless self, your beingness, your I amness, your you are-ness, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. And then everything that you are seeing is appearing on that spontaneous presence. And the body you believe yourself to be using is appearing in that spontaneous presence. And you're on the other side of, as we said, the window of presence. You're on the other side, and the world and you and everything in it are on the other side of presence.
I suppose there could be a part of me that doesn't want to give up and fully let go of my usual sense of presence.
Well, and that's why Maharaj says courage. You have to have courage to step forward. Because, yeah, you're very comfortable living in the illusory world and kind of rocking yourself to sleep with concepts. The reality and the big dawning reality for the egoistic sense of self is, so if Keith does not exist as Keith and is just the presence in the form of Keith, then why is Keith here? What did Keith do? When Keith leaves or dies, what was the point? But see, Keith never was. The presence is. That selfless self is all there is, all there ever will be, all there ever could be. It has created an illusory conceptual structure of form and identified and moved about these forms, but you've never changed. The selfless self that you are is not body, was not body, not going to remain the body. All of this illusion is the something appearing in the nothing. And the nothing is that selfless self that you are, without any understanding or identification with anything other, because you are all there is.
I guess sometimes I want to, I noticed when I start to really feel some of the impact of being free from ego or something, and I want to share it, and then it happened just the other day. I was trying to share a little bit of it, and the person I was trying to share it with was became resistant or making excuses for not seeing things that way, and then I found myself getting more emphatic about because I started identifying with seeing this sense of freedom as being a good value that everybody should have or something.
But again, remember, in the deepest sense of freedom, then everybody is nobody. And you're nobody, and there's nobody that needs to know anything. And that's why Maharaj says all the time, once you've seen the whole elephant, don't talk to the blind people about the elephant. The blind touches the leg and says, oh, the elephant is like this tree trunk. And then one touches the tail and says, oh, the elephant is like a rope. And then one touches the trunk and says, oh, the elephant, it's like a tree stalk. And so on and so forth. And the ears, oh, the elephant, it's like a basket. But you are not blind. You've seen the entire elephant. So if blind wants to argue about what the elephant looks like, well, okay, that's okay. If blind wants to say, oh, because Why try to impress this? It's only going to confuse your own self when you sit there, because they could give a really good argument of why the elephant is like a tree trunk. So don't bother with these things. Everybody, let them be, enjoy themselves. Everybody is the selfless self, and it doesn't matter. It's only you. What is going on with you? How you're impressing this knowledge to impress in you that I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body is not my identity. So who am I? This presence, which has been labeled God, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, and Master. That's it. That you are. All of the form and everything you've seen is absolutely illusion. The seer through which you are seeing, that space, as we talked about, that's using the eyes to peek inside itself and see all of this that's going on inside itself, is the reality.
But there was like a pause in the video there, and I don't know if you heard me say, if somebody does show interest in this, it's okay, it's fine to share with them, right?
I mean, if somebody shows interest, sure. If somebody comes up and says, hey, Keith, you seem to be like Nisargadatta Maharaj. Many people came to him and said, how are you so happy? How are you smiling and bouncing around all the time? And that was an attraction. It's not having to sell anything. It's just simply being. Simply by being your selfless self, then someone may come and say, how did you become so peaceful? Why are you, you seem to glow or something? Who knows? And then you can speak about these things. But if it's not wanted, or if there's a lot of convincing or something, it's best if somebody comes to you and starts talking and says, oh, my mind is this or that. Maybe you talk to them. Okay, well, maybe, whatever. But again, understand that there's no one. It's just your selfless self, and it's all a play. So whether somebody gets it or not, it doesn't make a difference. Everything that's being talked about is inside the bubble of illusion. All the concepts are inside the bubble of illusion. The John and the Keith that are appearing to have a conversation are inside the bubble of illusion, and the selfless self that is John and Keith is outside of it completely. It's the glass. We are the fish, and the water world, swimming around. And if you ask the fish, oh yeah, there's water and there's other fish, and we get fed at such and such a time. But if you ask the selfless self that's standing on the other side of the glass, there's no water. There's no fish. Where's the fish where I am? Nothing. It's on the other side of the presence.
Okay, I'm starting to get that analogy some. I didn't get it at first.
In the background of every experience, you are. Because you are what provides the background for every experience to appear. So remain with that. Whenever you start to get lost, that's why they say that, mantra allows you to remove the illusory layers that are trying to impress your unreality on your reality. You just refresh your memories. No, I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. Body's not my identity. I'm invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. So, in this situation that seemingly is pressuring me to think about something, how, if I am the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity, spontaneously, how is that affecting my true self? No, that's affecting the illusory self that I'm believing myself to be, because I got caught in the illusion for just a brief moment. I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body's not my identity. I just mantra, clear the thoughts, keep everything, keep brushing, antivirus software, and that's that.
It kind of reminds me of something I just read that said liberation is not for the self, Or for the individual, it's from the individual.
Yeah. Because the individual, like we talked about before, is the boil on the butt of selfless self. And it just needs to be just like if you had a sore on your foot and you had to put lotion every day to make it like less and less and less and less. That's what you're doing with mantra. You're erasing this individual that's seemingly appearing on your spontaneous presence. That's not needed and is not true. As soon as you believe yourself to be a body, an entire world appears. When you know yourself in the real sense, the world is the manifestation. You're seeing, okay, but there's no world because there's no impressions of this is a world. I'm something, this is subject to object, everything is happening and happening to me. No. When your formless sense of presence, just the eyes using in the moment, whatever happens to be rising up and then passes. Maharaj talks about drinking the water, putting the water down. Your entire life is like this. Freedom without the concept of freedom.
With that concept that with the growing sense of really not being the doer, you really can't blame yourself, nor can you sort of praise yourself for anything. And also you can't blame anyone else.
Correct.
Because everyone is myself. And,
Correct.
unless you want to blame yourself, I mean, like instead of blaming someone else, blame yourself, But yeah, I felt that certain freedom this week as well. Just I can tend to criticize others, especially when close family members, like when you see what's going on, and also myself. And I just felt like I got free of that. It may return, of course, because those old vasanas or habits or tendencies, you got to keep wearing them down. I guess they're the concepts, ingrained ways of being that you just kind of slowly eliminate gradually or quickly, depending on what the grace of the guru is or the master. But basically, it's just like, it doesn't matter what I do. I mean, like I have no sense if I do, like, it doesn't matter what I do, really. I mean, I'm only going to basically do what I'm conditioned or the way I am. That's what I'm going to do, basically. So it has good, there's certain good qualities and certain, like maybe not so good qualities or whatever. I don't even want to make that distinction, but basically it's just watching that and just seeing that happen in everyone else as well. It's just not, because, as you said, it's the presence that's doing the acting, the spirit, the power, it's just moving everything and it's working through these instruments. So basically that's,
yes. And as that spontaneous conviction appears, that's where Maharaj says it gets very, very interesting because remember, like you just said, okay, everybody in this room is my spontaneous presence. And as this is impressed and this reality is reflected, then there won't even be any of the judgments because there won't be someone or something here that's judging. It's just literally like a mirror. The whole entire world or existence becomes a mirror because you're not holding any ideas about a separate somebody with other separate somebodies. You're no longer having this mind flow identified with, I'm having these thoughts about this person. Because as selfless self, as you're impressing and reflecting your reality, it becomes a spontaneous sort of just action that has no actor nor any purpose of action.
Right. It's just like sitting on the bank and watching yourself flow down the stream.
Yes, yes.
Everything else.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Occasionally, maybe you fall in the stream, but then you very quickly, well, no, back on the shore.
And you know, it doesn't even concern a matter of pride of whether I'm getting this or not, or embarrassment of not getting it. But it's still, there's still a sense of me. It's kind of like I can tell when I'm not getting it, and I can tell when I am getting it, but it's not really me. It's just,
yeah, this I that's getting it and this I that's not getting it, these both have to be erased.
yeah,
There is no I at all.
yeah,
This I is everything. This I is the space in the room. So how is the space in the room going to get anything that's going on inside of itself? You are that space, and more subtle than space because you can sense space. So your selfless self is not getting or not getting anything. There's no, and yet, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, every step that you take from here to across the road, each step got you to that point. But in reality, you're not going anywhere. There's no key, and there's no, the whole concept of I am getting it or I am not getting it is a concept in mind. And mind doesn't exist. So the one that's saying they're getting it or not getting it is not existing, but is appearing to exist because of this stamp of I am getting it or I am not getting it. That I am somebody else has to be dissolved through mantra, through remaining with your selfless self. There's no getting it or not getting it. There's no nothing. Nothing's happening. Nothing's ever happened. Nothing's ever going to happen. It's your selfless self that is all of everything. And all of this is inside the illusion.
That's the freedom, right?
That's absolutely the freedom, because you know that nothing, oh, bye-bye, Trish. You know that absolutely nothing is happening. And there's no sense of doership. There's no anything. You're a formlessness in which some scenes are appearing. And again, if you get lost in the illusion, it's very good to know the space in this room is knowing itself in this body form and knowing itself and saying I for the first time. But don't get identified with this instrument that says I. Remain as your selfless self. I is presence.
Yeah, the real I.
Yeah, well, the I that you're saying you're believing to be separate, but I is presence.
Right.
I is presence speaking through the instrument of Kathleen. I is presence speaking through the instrument of Andrew, or through Sandra, or through Keith, or through John, or through Paban. I is, and all of these instruments are just that, empty vessels, empty instruments that somehow through a meditation and through a process of identification believed that the one that's saying I is separate from the I that is.
Yeah, all the desires and judgments and fears and all that stuff all belong to the small self.
Yeah, you have to pour yourself in belief into a body form in order to have any of these things that you just mentioned, desire, fear, any of those things. Otherwise, you're just formless. Nothing can stick to the formlessness. Formlessness is just formless. Just like the sky. Clouds are passing through the sky all the time, but the sky is not affected. So, like Sri Ramakat Maharaj says, a good thought comes in, use that thought. A bad thought comes in, or a thought that comes in of something that might disturb you, don't choose this thought. Allow this thought to pass. Very simple. Because you're no longer wrapped up in the identification of Kathleen. These thoughts are important.
Right. That's
my thoughts.
yeah, right. That's the what do you call it? Taking a touch of the thought.
Exactly. Because like Siddhara Meshra Maharaj says, everything that you label my is precious. Like suddenly it becomes my body, my house. He talks about that if you were to go into the neighbor's house and say, this is my wife, you would get a good punch on the nose because he's going to show you how that is not the my of your my wife. You understand? Like the labels that you put of my is a possession, basically. So when you say my house and my car, it becomes very personal. When you say they're my thoughts, you're personalizing it, and it's giving an undue importance and sort of an attention of, ooh, like I hold on to these. These are my thoughts. But when they're just thoughts flowing and there's no identification of an I am somebody else or a you and me, then there's no such kind of holding on to these thoughts because they're not my thoughts, they're thoughts.
Well, then it's related to the suffering because that's the thing is that what we don't normally realize is the making of it as my thought or my pain or my desires, whatever, is what creates all the suffering.
Yeah, because you're identified with it and you hold on to it. Even a hot rock, you say, oh, this is my hot rock. It's burning through my fingers, but it's mine. Like that, what was that? Lord of the Rings, the Gollum, where he's like, my precious, my precious. I don't know if you ever saw that, but that's the same kind of concept. I'm holding on to this because I've labeled it mine.
It's not only the conceptual identification, though, it's the valuational identification, too.
Yeah, egoistic evaluation, which is going to be way over the board because that illusory, it causes so much. That's why renunciation is nothing's mine or everything's mine, whichever way you like it. You could say nothing is mine or everything is mine because it's all appearing inside my spontaneous presence. So everything, therefore, is mine. So there's nothing I could want because it's mine anyway. Or nothing is mine because there is no me. That's good too. But the idea or the whole thing is the space has allowed for this entire room and all the objects in this space, including this object here, to be here. It's provided a background so that these objects can be perceived. It's the space that's perceiving the objects inside of itself, but when identified with an object, believes that it's appearing as an object with other objects. So you just remain as your selfless self without any identification. And Sri Ramakat Maharaj aptly says, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity.
Even the word identity is sort of funny.
Yeah, unidentified identity.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to identify this.
As a
That's why.
terms.
Exactly. You know yourself in a real sense and not in body form. Because when you know yourself through body form, you're automatically in the bubble of illusion. Because that's the first point of wrong identification. You know, it's like if you did a GPS and started out and you told the GPS, I want to go from here to there, but here isn't where you are now. Here is like 10 miles that way. And you expect it to give you right directions. It's impossible because you're starting out from a point that is not correct. So you're starting out from a point of, I'm somebody, I'm this body experiencing and exploring myself. And this is not correct. In reality, you're nothing. And you're using this body form just because it's here and you are. There's a sense of existence. But even this sense of existence is not true because it's a disturbance in the nothingness, this absolute nothingness. Because you can't even really say nothingness because If you say one, then there's automatically a concept of two and more, but it's zero. It's not even zero. It's less than, it's, you cannot, yeah, how? It's best said, nothing and something is appearing in this nothing for a time and then back to nothing. But all of the something was really nothing and will return to nothing. It just appeared as something. I know that sounds like the cat in the hat.
That's why everything can change. I mean, everything changes and everything will change and does change and can change because it's nothing.
Yeah, because it's nothing, and it'll dissolve back into nothing, because it always was nothing. It never was something. There was the appearance that it was something and the belief in that something for a time, but it never was.
Yeah, like the dream state.
Exactly. This is the best kind of way to try and describe how the space in this room, the dead body here, there was a click and a sense of existence arose that I exist. But I believe I exist as this thing that I'm now knowing my existence. In reality, I exist, but I don't know my existence. Now I know my existence in the body form. I hear I, and I identify with this body as I. But in reality, it's the space that never knew it was, that now knows it is, but through a conceptual belief in being something that it is not.
Then, but the way my mind works, though, is if I'll start thinking about this, the mind tends to believe that there's different rates of change, and that seems to be not changing so fast is more real than the things that are changing fast.
Well, again, for any change to be perceived, there has to be a perceiver that's not changing. And two, remember, don't say my mind and the mind. Try not to get in the habit of, because every time you're speaking about the mind as a separate entity, it almost sounds like it is a separate entity. And in that case, then it would have to be overcome. But there is no mind, so there is no need to overcome this mind. Mm-hmm. There's simply the peeling back of the layers of illusion with mantra and that fire that's always there. Even if there's a heavy, heavy illusion, the fire is there and remains. It's constant. It doesn't go out. It doesn't burn brighter. It doesn't burn less. It's just there. It's the background of everything. And all of this is appearing on that spontaneous presence. But, to get out of the habit of when the mind talks about this or when the mind perceives this, it's not the mind, it's you that's using the instrument of mind currently to perceive something through. You're using and the instrument of mind, like kind of a translator, basically. If you were to go into a business meeting, someone speaking Japanese, and here's your mind over here, and you ask the mind what's being said or what's going on. But you perceive directly, and you'll see that there's no need for this little translator guy, who, by the way, the guy, it's like a comedy movie, because this guy's saying something totally different than what your translator is telling you is being said. If you've ever seen those comedies where it's like, a Japanese guy is talking or something, and then he translates something just totally off, and you're reading the language underneath, so you know what it is. But that's how this mind is. This mind that you're believing is some kind of separate entity is just a nonsense thing. And if you believe there's a mind, then you'll believe, remember, the one thorn to remove the other thorn. If you believe there's a mind, then you'll have to have the belief or the concept that the mind has to be removed. When you know there's no mind, then there's no barrier of mind that needs removing. And therefore, there's no struggle. There's no strife. And thoughts come, but they're not my thoughts. And they certainly aren't my mind thinking these thoughts, because there is no mind.
There's just thoughts arising, and then there's a sort of a movement toward adopting it as being real, but it's not.
Formlessness with the impression of trying to take form. Yeah. A thought comes in, and there's an impression of, whoa, I look at this, and then I take the form of a thinker thinking this thought. But if it's a good thought that I can use, like it's like, hey, I'm hungry, I should eat. Okay, that's no problem. It's just okay, I need to eat. Okay, I eat, I put it down, and it's finished. It's only when I sit there and I try to say, okay, this thought's coming. Now I need to think about it. There has to be a mentation. There has to be an I am somebody else creating a thinker and then attempting to create a future or to somehow create a past. All of that, it's just here. And there's not even here and now because there's no object in time for which time could be now. It's just, and it's not eternal because it's outside of the concept of time. There's just space using form in the moment to perform a simple task and drop it.
And spontaneously too.
Yes.
I wonder if Paban ever woke up. If you're there, you got to turn your microphone back on.
If he ever woke up.
I don't want to hear any more snoring. I assume he'd wake up and turn it off himself.
With a name like that, he may be overseas, and maybe it's a different time zone. He's really,
That's what I figured,
yeah, maybe he just wants to listen. There, you know, there was Rahul who joined us last week, who just kind of sat and listened. Mary sometimes just sits and listens. It's all good.
Fine. Maybe whoever wants to join can join.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I told you, I put that on the website now. You know, whenever Kathleen sends out here's our Zoom link, that's on the website now for not the Ramakant Maharaj US, but the one that I have for the Tuesday talks, basically. That the link is on the website, so anybody in the whole World Wide Web could join if they cared to.
Okay, because I don't think this Paban is on my mailing list.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. Even on our YouTube videos now, when I post this tomorrow, our little chat, it'll say, here's the link to videos and such, and if you want to join, then, you know, come and join. So anybody can do it.
Yeah.
We've had no hecklers so far. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
We did have one guy that was a little, but he never came back. That a couple weeks ago. But anyway, but that was okay. I mean, it's self-selecting.
It's all the selfless self.
If the self wants to listen to itself, it will.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think it's about time, John.
Okay, good.
okay, well, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Same here.